The one thing that I didn't have as much an appreciation for then that I understand now much clearer is although it's pretty clear we're going to dematerialize books and music and video, and we could dematerialize license and credit cards and keys to open doors. The part that I didn't spend a lot of time focused on is the idea you could dematerialize property in cyberspace. And that's what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is digital property invented for the first time in the history of humanity. And we've dematerialized the concept of property on a decentralized network such that you could move digital property from device to device in a friction-free fashion, and you can build a literal 21st century economy in cyberspace that is beyond the reach of a company, a CEO, or a government. And so that idea that you needed a decentralized monetary network to create digital property, Satoshi just invented that around 2009 at the same time the mobile wave was happening, and it flickered. And now looking back on it, it's the most disruptive force on the planet, in my opinion. And that I didn't, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, it's another thing going on. I knew the power of peer-to-peer. I got that it was interesting, but I didn't see it as maybe the most important thing the human race has stumbled on in the 21st century, which is my view right now. In the course of nature, studying the physical world, there's a tendency for things to collapse from a higher energy state to a lower energy state. Like in chemistry, it's this crystallization, when you have ice, and it collapses, it gives off energy. Anything, if I'm boiling the water, I've got steam, and as it condenses, it gives off energy and it becomes ice and it gives off more energy. When water is moving downhill, it's giving off, it's bleeding off potential energy, and you can capture and harness that energy. If you look at all the books behind you, the mobile wave and the success of the iPad is all about, what if I took 10 billion books, dematerialized them digitally, put them into iBooks or put them into Google Books, and then I move the electrons around? I could give 5 billion people a library of 1 million books each for the cost of electricity. So the modern environment is of dematerialized books is how you unleash abundance. Andrew Carnegie, he took all of his money and he created libraries. And that was the best idea, put libraries everywhere in the world 100 years ago. And then, of course, libraries are obsolete. The library in Washington, D.C., you know what they did with the Carnegie Library in D.C.? They turned it into an Apple store. Okay, talk about profound irony.
Irony, yes.
Apple destroyed the library with the iPad. Now there's no reason to have a library of books because you can have 1 billion books for free on the iPad. And that is a lower energy state. How much does it cost me to give every human being a rich person's library? Right? $1 million. Okay, well, I'll give $1 million worth of books to 5 billion people. What's that? Right? Well, the human race can't afford to do it that way. Well, we do the same thing with Amazon Music. How much? I give you 50 million songs. How much is it going to cost? $9. Okay, all of those are dematerializations that are crystallizations where you have all of the property, the intellectual property, music, books, collapsing onto a network. And same with Google Maps, right? I mean, we gave everybody on Earth. I mean, do you have any idea how many pages are in Google Maps? Like if I gave you 500 million pages of maps, it wouldn't be what Google Maps gives you. They have more, right? So we have this extraordinary amount of wealth created by the dematerialization of property. What is Bitcoin? Imagine that I took all the land in the world and I just collapsed it into cyberspace. Now, what if I took all the value? You have $1 billion, you could buy 16 city blocks in New York City. What if you bought every city block in every city on Earth, and then you bought every building on top of every block? And every collectible? What if you bought all the money and all the gold? And then what if you took all that stuff and you collapse it onto a network and divided it by 21 million Bitcoin and made them all subdividable by 100 million? So you have 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis. Then I put that on a network, I blew it into cyberspace, and I ran it on thousands and thousands of decentralized nodes in places you can't even find, so that no one person can stop it no matter what. Even if they tried, they couldn't stop it. I released it. I dematerialized the thing. The blockchain for Bitcoin is DNA. I dematerialized into cyberspace. I let it go. But now you don't actually need all the land. What if you didn't need the gold? What if, you know, we spend $100 billion mining gold, and if the purpose of gold is to store property, and I spend 100 billion a year and I do it for 100 years, right? I spent $10 trillion. What if I just got it all back? So Bitcoin is this simple idea, digital property. Okay, has it ever been done before? No. Satoshi created he was the first monetary engineer, or she or they were the first monetary engineer. Bitcoin is a monetary engineering feat. In fact, it's a digital property network, and the first one we ever got to work. We tried it dozens of times before, they all failed. People have tried to create monetary networks afterwards. None of them have succeeded in displacing Bitcoin. So what does this mean really? Because most people say it, but they don't think about what it means. Digital property. It means that I can slice up $387 worth of property, and I can give it to 8 billion people friction-free at the speed of light, and deposit it onto a mobile device and maybe into their head. You can't do that with gold or silver, right? There's not enough ounces of gold to give everybody 1 ounce of gold. The markup would be 40%. It would cost you 40% more to ship the gold and take you 8 weeks. And if you wanted to sell it, it costs you 30% to sell it. It's just not practical to dematerialize, or in fact, gold is material property, right? I can't do it with cash. I can't do it with gold. I can't give everybody you remember 40 acres and a mule? I mean, people came to America, why? For civil rights and property rights. They were really going to get murdered because they wanted to actually, you know, the Protestants were murdering the Catholics in the north of Europe, and the Catholics were murdering the Protestants in the south of Europe, and everybody was murdering the Quakers everywhere, and everybody's murdering everybody that didn't have the right religion. If they weren't, they all fled. They wanted to get away with their lives. And the second thing they wanted was land. Land was literally property, because now let's go back to Ayn Rand. She said, without property rights, no other rights are possible. That's the quote.
Right.
Most people don't get that. Most people think, you know, like we scrubbed proper land, you know, life, liberty, and property. That's the phrase. We scrubbed that out and called it life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But there is no pursuit of happiness if I strip you of property. What is property, metaphorically speaking? And what is money? Money is energy. Money is the apex energy of the human race. Money is monetary energy. Property, if there is only energy and mass, you convert energy into matter and matter back into energy. Property, therefore, being the solid state form of energy. Once you understand it that way, you realize that every economy requires money to backhaul the energy in order to balance the goods and services you ship the other direction. So no economy is possible without strong money, and no economy is possible without property rights. Bitcoin is digital property. Bitcoin is the first time in the history of the human race you can give property rights to 8 billion people. And I just put a period on it. This is the first time in the history of man we have a technology that allows us to grant unfettered property rights to 8 billion people.